Hey, Spider Nation, welcome back to another episode of Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow. I'm Jonathan, and joining me tonight is James. What's going on, James?
Not much. My birthday's Monday, so I'm just relaxing, getting ready for that. I got a Saturday night off and my birthday off on Monday, so that's weird. But I did have to work a morning shift with only 4 hours of sleep, but, I'd rather work a Friday morning when I can get most of my big shit done before I have to do lunch prep. So that wasn't that bad. I had that. I had that moment that happens in every goddamn 90s television show where you think your friends are ignoring you and being assholes around your birthday, only for it turns out they're throwing you a surprise party. So I kind of felt like an idiot after I realized I just literally fell for every trope of every goddamn 90s TV show that ever had a surprise party angle ever. And I always said I will never fall for that, and I did, and I felt like an idiot. But thanks, guys, again for the surprise party. Beer pong that night without beer, but with straight up liquor was awesome. And, just that. I had a surprise party for my friends. That was nice, except for the fact that my friend Trevor's girlfriend had to go to the emergency room.
Oh, geez.
I'm related to that. Like, she had chronic stomach pains, and it flares up every now and then, and it just happened to flare up that night. It had nothing to do with the drinking before anybody asked.
Well, we hope she's okay, James.
Oh, yeah, she's okay, because it's just that once it flares up, she has to get a refill of her medicine. And as far as I know, last time I talked to my friend Trevor, she's doing, fine. She's having good. It's like anything. You have your good days and you have your bad days with stuff like that. It wasn't anything life threatening, but still, it was kind of like, again, like every 90s TV show, because then you get to the moment where you have the party, and then somebody ends up in the emergency room, and it becomes a very special episode. So it was weird how, like, it literally went from being the 90s fun, like, it's a surprise party, and then it's like the aftermath part 2. Somebody's in the hospital, and you're all there.
And tonight I'm also being joined
Story
by
of my
Jan.
life, ladies and gentlemen, a 90s TGIF sitcom. But yeah, besides for that and working, and I picked up Madden. Besides for that, not much. Oh, I got some new back issues that I ordered. I got Spider-Man #1 by McFarlane and a few other stuff from the 90s like that.
And tonight I'm also being joined by Jan. What's going on, Jan?
Not much. I started my sophomore year of college. My birthday is a week from Tuesday, so just basically a week after James. And I have a story about someone experiencing stomach pains, but I'll tell you guys after the after the show's over.
You're making poopy.
No, it's not. It's worse. It's not me.
For context, that I was telling a story from back in high school that happened to one of my friends, Dakota, in math class. It has nothing to do with Jan. It was just a joke.
Yeah.
But before we get into the Spider-Man aspect of Spider-Man's Tangled Web Show tonight, a little bit of a serious note because...
Guys, no, wait a second. I just realized something. Remember you guys were giving me shit because my shirt's not Spider-Man related? It's Macho Man Randy Savage. He was in AS1 as Buzzsaw.
Hey, Freak Shoe, you going nowhere.
So I just realized it right now. I'm like, wait, my shirt's Randy Savage. Holy crap, it is Spider-Man related. Bonesaw is ready.
Who's always ready?
And I still gotta say, at the time, Randy Savage in real life was having a real life feud due to his divorce with Hulk Hogan. So I always wonder, being a wrestling fan that knows that Savage and Hogan have a very toxic on-again, off-again relationship before Randy Savage died, I still wonder to this day if the name was changed to Bonesaw McGraw is because I'll do your movie, but no way am I playing a Hogan.
But anyway, starting off a little bit of a more somber note because we do know that things are happening in the world. For those of you, if anyone watching this show is in the path of Hurricane Harvey, we wish you all safety. Thoughts and prayers are with you because we know that storm is about to rain down on Texas and Louisiana. And from what it's looking like, it's not going to be pretty. So we give all of our best wishes to Texas, Louisiana, and everyone in the path of Hurricane Harvey. Stay safe out there because...
we're lucky being in the Midwest that we don't got to worry about hurricanes, but they're not fun from what I understand. Because my mom lived in Louisiana for like a few years after she graduated high school, before she moved back up here and met my dad. So yeah, I can understand from her experience with these storms. They're not fun, even if they're not a hurricane. If they're just bad tropical storms, they can fuck a lot of shit up. Recently, my city had a flood, from a bad rainstorm, so I can understand perfectly what those people are probably going through. So, my thoughts and prayers are the people right down in Texas and Louisiana.
Yeah, let's just hope that everything. Well, I mean, the truth is, it's not going to be pretty, but hopefully, just
It's
maybe,
not as bad as people are predicting. People are already saying it's going to be Katrina Part 2. Like, let's hope it's not that bad.
let's hope there's some miracle and it just fades away. But getting onto a lighter note, cartoons. A new Spider-Man cartoon premiered last week, and he is asked to review it because Jan is, well, he's the one person here who actually is more interested in this cartoon. James and I have both seen it, but we're not gonna speak too much about it. Jan wants this to be his own little corner, and you know what? We're gonna give Jan what he wants this time. That usually doesn't happen a
It's just
lot.
this little sunshine.
Yeah, I'm even sitting by a corner. This is perfect. My corner.
Does that mean I have to go in a corner the next time we review a Ben Reilly issue?
Yes.
Okay, but
So tonight I have to go in the corner. So tonight I'm going to have to go into a corner.
tonight we're all gonna have to go into corners.
Foreshadowing.
Tonight we're all gonna have to go into corners. But yes. So Jan, we had this new Spider-Man cartoon. It premiered last week. The first two episodes, Horizon High Part 1 and 2. Basically, a brief synopsis of the show is Peter Parker is accepted into this new highly advanced school called Horizon High. It's run by Max Modell, and he basically it's that classic Spider-Man stuff of Peter doesn't have enough money, and then but then it's like they find a workaround so that he can still go to Horizon High. He fights supervillains, and people are like, "Hey, why is Peter Parker never around when Spider-Man's here? I never see the two of them together." Miles Morales is in the show. Anya Corazone's in the show. The Smythes are in the show. Harry Osborn. The Vulture is the villain of the first episode. And then the second episode, you see the Scorpion. You see.
Wait, Vulture's the villain of the first episode, like in Spec?
And mainly because of Homecoming. Like, he's literally even got like a Homecoming-esque suit.
Mm-hmm. I'll talk about.
You also see Peter Parker in Horizon High, the first episode, Part 1. He has a Spider-Man Homecoming-esque suit where it's like that shitty hoodie and sweatpants and the goggles and everything.
Hoodie? Did I hear hoodie?
Yep, James, you heard hoodie. But yeah, he's got that for the first episode, and then the second episode he gets some Horizon tech, and he actually makes a more high-tech classic Spider-Man suit. So once again, more Spider-Man Homecoming-esque elements into the show. And I mean, that's pretty much a basic rundown of the show. There's a plot where Harry Osborn is framed for something bad that happens, and he gets kicked out of Horizon High, and you kind of see him going down a little bit of a darker path, probably foreshadowing a little bit of a goblin plot later on. But Jan, what did you think of this cartoon? I mean, because you're the one who's the most enthusiastic about it out of all of us. So Jan,
well, here's the story. So I was looking up to see it early at Comic-Con, and I didn't love it or anything. I thought it was fine, but I'm kind of like, you know what? I saw it. James has Ben Reilly. John, he runs the show, so he doesn't even need his own corner. We are in his corner. That sounds weird. So I'm like, you know what? God damn it, I'm gonna have a corner. So whatever. I kind of invited
his exact quote when he asked John if he could do this, and John said, "I don't know if we'll have time." Cool. You're like, "Geez, dude, Ben Reilly, I get to do this, damn it!" And John's like, "Okay," and backs off.
Yeah, but so what? So I figure best case scenario, the show is enjoyable, and I get to have an excuse to watch something every Saturday morning that isn't terrible. And worst case scenario, I get to have fun making fun of it.
Like Ninja Steel.
What?
Power Rangers Ninja Steel. I understood the joke.
Let me put it this way: ratings this week dropped from 5-6 years ago. Dropped 75% with this new season.
That's how bad that show is.
The Power Rangers hasn't been less than 1 million viewers since Power Rangers RPM, and that's because Disney didn't air the show for half the goddamn country in syndication.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but Jan, back to your corner. We're sorry.
So yeah, it's okay. Get off my goddamn corner, James. I'll fight you. But anyway,
I'm sorry. It's just you brought up something and I had to make a reference.
You're good. I'm joking. But anyway, they did some origin stuff online. They released the origin in 5 shorts. And it was okay. Like they kind of combined the first like Ultimate arc with like the first Sam Raimi movie, and it's not like anything mind like it's kind of like he uses the scientific method. Like I don't know, he's a little annoying. Like the science thing is overplayed. I don't know. I thought the voice actor was a little bit grating at first, and I think he's grown on me. Like I think he's actually pretty good. Um, I hope they like dial down the science, like his obsession with science, a little bit going forward. I think the last origin short is probably the best. Like I think the Uncle Ben stuff is actually pretty strong. Like that was, and I'm like, okay, this is a little bit more sophisticated than like Ultimate Spider-Man was. Like Ultimate Spider-Man to me felt like really like, oh hey kids, you have like no attention span, so here's like a joke every 5 seconds, and like there's no real like serious drama. Like it's all really like written for young kids. And this, I mean, this is still obviously a kid show, but it's a little bit more sophisticated. So I guess I kind of like, okay, I'll check it out. And I saw it at Comic-Con and I thought, this is pretty good. Like it's not great or anything. It's enjoyable. And I think the worst thing about it is that I think the villains are kind of crap so far. Like the Vulture is like a really watered down version of like the Spectacular Vulture. Like it's sort of like a much less like sophisticated version of that like he's I don't know, his lines are really cheesy and like poorly written, like very like Saturday morning cartoon, which I guess it is a Saturday morning cartoon. I don't know, he was really like unsubtle and cheesy to me. Like I didn't care for him, and the design is okay, but he looks a little bit, I don't know, like I just didn't care for that portrayal of the character very much. Like I thought the Sonic scream or whatever is kind of cool. Like I don't think any other version of this had that, unless I'm mistaken.
The one that Dan Slott invented during Brand New Day did.
No, that was the vomiting vulture.
So, yeah, you're right. It was, he vomited that. That was like the guy with like the weird, like, didn't he have like a jaw that would open up or something? And he like spit acid.
Yeah, I try to repress those memories.
Yeah, me too. Oh, and then the Punisher killed him, right? Because like no one liked him, so the Punisher just kind of killed him in like one story.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was what happened.
Yeah. So I wasn't like thrilled with the Vulture, but I don't know. Maybe he could grow on me. Like I think he'll be a recurring character. The Smiles are there, and they're probably like the best so far, the villains, but they're still kind of pretty one dimensional. But at least like their like father son bond was kind of like genuine. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Like they're bad guys, but they care about each other. So I don't know, not really that great, but they're not horrible. And then the Scorpion, like he was kind of one dimensional, but I thought he was used in an enjoyable way. Like he's just kind of there, like for Spider-Man to fight a bad guy in the beginning of an episode, like on his way to school. So, I'm not thrilled with the villains. I think what I like the most is probably what they're doing with Harry. Like I feel like they're doing sort of an ASM2 thing with Harry, but maybe with a little bit more time to give it, develop it. Like I like the idea that Harry's kind of going on like a dark path and that he might be the first Goblin. Like I think that's a cool idea. And I don't know. I think that like little story thread has potential. I like Max Modell. Like I know he's kind of a slot fixture, but I actually thought he was written to be pretty likable and stuff. And I thought some of the comedy was okay. Like, it wasn't like so cringe like Ultimate where he'd have like the weird like the angel and the devil spider like on his shoulder and all like the obnoxious like cutaway gags and stuff. Like it was a little bit more mature than that show. So overall, I thought these first two episodes were solid. Like they're not anything great, but I think there's potential that this show could get to a place where it's pretty enjoyable, I think. And one thing I don't like, actually, I'm going to talk about is that every villain is like apparently going to be either a student at one of the schools or a teacher. Because I know the Shocker like is going to be a student at Horizon High, which is like so weird. Like the Shocker's always like a thug who gets weapons, but I guess like he has to be a student at the school now.
Well, he curated his gauntlets in the Romita era, so he had to have at least some knowledge.
Well, yeah, but he wasn't like a teenage kid who was like Peter Parker's classmate gone bad. Like that's just, I don't know. Like every villain being a classmate that goes bad, that's kind of,
that's very Smallville of them.
Well, yeah, but even like Smallville like wasn't actually doing the Superman villains. It was just kind of like I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that. Like every villain is a classmate.
No, I'm saying because I'm watching Smallville and I can kind of relate to that right now. How it's like,
Yeah.
like here's a classmate you never see in that class before. Oh, and they get superpowers.
Like Clark Kent is like best friends with said classmate and like has known him for years, even though you've never seen him before. Like,
well, in the first episode, I can forgive you that because like they give excuses like, oh, then he got into bugs and so he became a weirdo.
yeah. So I don't know, this kind of has that thing where I'm like, okay, do I care? Like the Shocker and Clash, our favorite character from. I'm pretty sure we all hated. And my cat just jumped on my bed.
Hi, Jan's cat.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we all like more or less equally hated that learning to crawl like story, right?
It was meh.
I don't know. I like reread it a year ago and was not impressed at all.
I like learning to crawl. Like I said, it was up until Renew Your Vows. It was like the best Dan Slott story ever. And what lost me was the whole fact that Peter, for a guy who was all about redemption, didn't want Clash to ever use his superpowers ever, even when it was for good. And of course, it ends up leading him becoming a villain again. He's like, "How did this happen?" And it's like, because you were a dick who told the guy he couldn't use his powers even when he could save your ass.
Yeah. I don't know. So like, if you like Clash, then congrats. I guess he's in the show. Because everybody was asking for him.
Dan Slott character is in the show.
Yeah, I know. It's like, but one thing I'm excited for, not like excited, but like it's kind of cool to see, is we were talking before we started recording the show. I have the unpopular opinion that I think the Jackal is kind of like an awesome character. Like I think the Jackal is one of those characters that's so like weird and crazy that like there's just like a charm to him, and he's actually going to be like a major villain in the show, and that's like his first ever appearance outside of the comics. Like not Miles Warren, but like full on Jackal, and he's being voiced by Bender from Futurama, which is funny. And I hope he makes his first appearance like driving a bus randomly, like nowhere, to like interrupt a fight with Spider-Man. Like I think that'd be so fun.
Hashtag drive the bus.
How are they going to do that with Gwen not dying and becoming Spider-Gwen, and she's going to become Spider-Gwen instead, and also the fact that he's in love with a teenage girl? Like, are they just going to have him just be a sane villain who likes cloning now?
I don't even know if he's cloning. Like, I don't know what his deal is. I just know he's in there.
If it's the Jackal, it's going to be cloning. Let's be honest here.
Well, they could do like, I know they're doing Spider Island, so maybe he'll be more like animal experimenting than cloning. But I don't know. It'll be cool to see him, I guess, like if nothing else. And Josh Keaton is voicing Norman Osborn in this show, which is really, really weird because like he played Spider-Man in the Spectacular show. And I think that's the first time an actor has ever played both Peter and Norman. So that there's things that I'm kind of looking forward to.
That happened before with other characters, like the fact that Dean Cain played Jack the Ripper in Smallville.
Yeah, you're right. I guess that's they do that, but it's kind of so there's like enough stuff in there for me that I'm probably gonna like, at least for the sake of this segment, I'm probably gonna stick with the show. Like I thought it was harmless enough. So yeah, more if you're on the fence about watching it, like I think it is better than Ultimate. It's still like much more of a kid's show than the 90s cartoon and Spectacular were. Like those are shows that are kind of reasonably sophisticated for what they are and can play on like a few different levels, where this is a little bit more juvenile. But I don't know, it's probably like if you have kids.
Dan Slott, creative consultant.
Well, yeah, fair enough. But like, I don't know, if you have kids and you want to introduce them to Spider-Man, like this is probably a pretty good starting point for that. So I don't know, I think it's pretty good. I'm gonna try to keep talking about it on the show. So
okay, James, you saw the cartoon. I mean, do you want to give like just a few quick general thoughts on it?
I didn't like it. Like it got annoying. Like when I saw those origin things, and it was really annoying when Peter Parker's like, "Shut up!" And like this, the first 5 minutes when you get the flashback to Uncle Ben, it was more of that, where like Uncle Ben's trying to talk to him with the power and responsibility speech, and he's becoming douchebag hipster with like texting and selfies, and like that's not even a real equation, Uncle Ben, even though it's been proven that it actually is. That's not even a real equation. It's through science. And I'm like you're that's not Peter Parker. He would never talk that way to Uncle Ben. Even when he was a dick, when he got his spider bite, he still was like respectful to Uncle Ben, other than the fact of the car scene in the Maguire movie. But still, like almost every other version, he's Uncle Ben, the whole point of him doing his dick stuff was to get money for his Uncle Ben and Aunt May. And he was like, selfie, that's dumb. That's really stupid. Science. It's like, really? Really?
Because, like, when I watched it, and I've seen it, like, I saw it at Comic-Con, and then I think I watched it again last week, and I'm pretty sure, like, he's not, like, he's just kind of, like, jesting with Uncle Ben. Like, he wasn't like, oh, fuck you, Uncle Ben, you know. Like, he was kind of like, they were joking around, and at the end, he's like, you know what, maybe you're right, Uncle Ben. And he, like, takes a picture of the equation that, oh, by the way, I, like, laughed out loud when I saw it for the first time. Like, power and responsibility is now some, like, equation that Uncle Ben writes down. Like, that's taking it. Like, I get the whole, like, science theme that they're going for. That's taking it too far. Like, that's almost laughable.
It almost feels like, because Dan Slott was credit consulting, he's like, well, you got to base on Horizon Lab and Parker Industries. So every reference has to remind you that Peter Parker one day is going to not be a photographer at the Bugle, but running Parker Industries.
Yeah. And then one of Peter's, when he's trying to make Spider-Man costumes, one of the, like, prototype versions he makes is the Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider outfit. Wink, wink.
Yeah, so, James, do you have any other thoughts on the cartoon?
Just the CGI is still bad. It makes the 90s show CGI and the MTV show CGI look like a PlayStation 4 game.
All right. I've seen the cartoon. It's okay. It's not great. I mean, I think it has room to grow. There's potential in it, but if you're looking for like the best Spider-Man cartoon ever,
watch Spectacular or the 90s show.
I say go with the 90s show. It's like if you're looking for something good,
I say go if you want something good and classic, go to the 90s show. If you want something good and more modern and more kind of similar to the movies, go with Spec. And if you want something that's good in kind of a cheesy, old school comic booky way, Amazing Friends.
And if you want something that's so like bizarrely like 2000s that you'll kind of laugh, but there's a charm to it, go for the MTV show.
Oh no, I haven't watched an episode of that since that aired on MTV. Like, and this is going from somebody who was the target demographic, a preteen who was into the Raimi movies, and even I'm like, this show sucks. Go back to Wrestling Society X, please, MTV.
All right, but that's going to conclude Jan's corner of the show. Now we move into not James's corner, but something that James
our corner,
but something that James requested. Our review for
my birthday is my present from you guys.
Yes, it's our present from James. I feel emotionally taken advantage of. I'll be honest with you. Because you know what?
God damn it, John. When it gets your birthday, we'll review any shitty comic you like, okay?
I'm holding
except for One More Day. Because if you say you liked it, I'm quitting the show.
I do not like One More Day, but I'm holding you to that, James.
Oh, God. So if you're going to review One More Day, I'm quitting the show.
I'm not making you review One More Day. But, yeah, so Amazing Spider-Man 400 and then The Trial of Peter Parker. We're going to split this up into three different segments here. We're going to have 400 on its own. We're going to review that on its own. Then we're going to do parts 1 and 2 of Trial of Peter Parker. Then we're going to do parts 3 and 4. We're going to start off with Amazing Spider-Man number 400 here, as I pull it up on Marvel Unlimited. Sorry, I make weird noises sometimes. It annoys the crap out of everyone around me. But so James is going to do the recap of Amazing Spider-Man 400 here. After I give the creative team, we got J.M. DeMatteis, writer, Mark Bagley, penciler, Larry Malstead. I'm sorry, I butchered that name. He's the inker. And Randy Emberlin was the inker on pages 32 and 33. Bob Sharon is the colorist. Danny Fingeroth is the editor. Oakley and NY2 are the letters? I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. But, yes, so James, go ahead. Tell us what happens in Amazing 400.
The issue begins with Spider-Man web slinging because he heard that there's something going on with Aunt May, who's, as anybody who read the Clone Saga knows, she had a stroke and, was in a comatose state, and Peter's been told to come quick about his aunt, and he's, of course, worrying that it's all about the worst. The doctors are like, I don't know what to tell you, but she's perfectly fine and up and able. Mainly because it's not really Aunt May, spoiler alerts, but that's for another different comic at like 5 years from now. So yeah, May's up and she's all like happy to see Peter, and she's all like, "Oh, Peter, I'm fine somehow," because reasonings. And while this is going on, Peter looks out the window and he's like, "I see Ben Riley," and Ben's all depressed because he's the clone. And he knows he's a clone, but he loves my Aunt May. But if he comes in here with my face, it will kill Aunt May. And then Ben's doing more of the whole, I'm a clone, Kane, I'm a clone. And then, yeah, that's going on, and more fun stuff with that. Then we got Jackal, who's all like in Ravencroft, like saying, I'm not crazy. It's just more of, Jackal's whole story arc right here, trying to like mind fuck people. Aunt May comes into the house and she's like, "Oh, it smells like old people." And Peter's like, "Aunt May? Oh, sorry." She's like, "Oh yeah, it smells like the past, and it smells like old memories and all this stuff." Mary Jane just walks through the door, and Aunt May immediately goes, "You're pregnant." Like she literally does. Like she doesn't even say hi to Mary Jane. Mary Jane goes, "Aunt May, it's so great to see you. You're pregnant, aren't you? You're having a baby." So yeah, they're sitting down, they're talking, and Aunt May is all like, "It's so precious that the people me and Anna Watson started to put together are now married, and they're gonna have children, and there's no bigger responsibility than you guys being parents. And please, if I do end up dying later on in an event, do not sell your marriage to the devil." They say no promises. Peter goes to the bedroom and he's talking to Ben, and Ben's all like, "We need to talk, Peter." And then Ben's bringing up some old memory about this tree and Uncle Ben. And Peter's like, "Yeah, I know this, but what are we doing in costumes? Seriously, here in the backyard?" And Ben's like, "Because I got to tell you, I'm leaving town." And Peter's like, "That doesn't explain why you're in the costume." "Because we got our Spider-Man Ben Riley stuff in this book." I mean, I'm going out of town. I'm leaving. Jackal's just lying to us when he said that you're the original, I'm the clone. And then he said, "I'm the original, you're the clone." And then he said that we're both not the original, we're both the clone. He's just an asshole. So Ben's like, "I'm leaving." And he shakes Peter's hand, and Peter goes, "Hey, Ben, if you ever need some help and you're back in the New York area, just give me a call." And Ben's like, "No, I'm leaving forever. Bye. I'm the clone." And then we get more of Aunt May revealing that all of a sudden me and Anna Watts started to put you two together, and then it took you guys even longer to finally get married. And I love you guys, and it's awesome that you guys are together. And again, please, if I do eventually die coming up in like a decade in comics, do not sell your marriage to the devil. And then Mary Jane goes, "Ha ha ha, they're gonna throw me on the bus for that reasoning one day." So Mary Jane leaves the room, and she's all like, "Yes, May, we're our child's going to be lucky to have us as parents, but we're lucky to have you." And May goes to sleep, and then Peter's watching old family movies. And then Mary Jane's like, "What's going on?" He goes, "Oh, I'm just remembering the happy time with my mom and my dad and Aunt May and Uncle Ben. And it's so great to have Aunt May back. And, now she gets to be in my child's life like she was there for me when I was a kid. And it's so totally awesome." But then he starts going, "But I'm not. But the Jack," even though ignoring what Ben just told him, "But there's a chance I'm the clone. And it so sucks. I might be the clone." And Mary Jane's like, "I don't care. I love you." And then you got Judas Traveler, and his guy's like, "Hey, we're still in the book. We're still relevant. Remember us." And then we got Ben like going to his hotel, and he's got the actual Spider-Man suit. And Ben goes, "No, I'm not Spider-Man. I'm the clone. No." And then we cut to his Spider side, who's like on the side of like a street, and a cop's calling him a bum and a drunk. And he's like, "I don't know who I am because you're drunk. I'm homeless because you're drunk." Like, the answer this cop gives to everything is because you're drunk. And he wants to beat him with his nightstick. So, of course, Peter starts, our Spider side, I should say, starts doing his old Spider-Man stick. Which, great going. A guy who looks identical to Peter Parker doing Spider-Man stuff, that's not going to backfire. So they go to the Empire State Building. They see all the tourist sites from up there. They see the World Trade Center. They see, the Brooklyn Bridge. They see, the Statue of Liberty. They see all the New York sites. And then while May's talking about, she goes, all the skyscrapers, all the monuments. How does it feel to be like you, Peter? How you can always go to these places and feel free as a bird? And he's like, what are you talking about, Aunt May? I don't really go out that much, but I'm married and, I work at the Bugle. I don't have much time. She goes, oh, no, I don't mean when you're Peter Parker. I mean when you're Spider-Man. Dun, dun, dun. And it's actually pretty cool how she explains this. She explains it in a way that is very cool, where it's that, after Uncle Ben died, she couldn't handle the thought of Peter dying too. So that's why she hated Spider-Man, is because it was her trying to psychose her. Like, he's a menace. He should stop doing what he's doing. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Are you guys still there?
Yeah. Yes. I'm still here.
Okay, because you guys got quiet because I pulled to my phone, so I don't got the video. So when it gets really quiet, I'm making sure that I'm just talking to myself.
No, you're good. You're good.
So she's all like, "Oh, but I do love you and I care about you. I know that's what you do, and I know you're going to be responsible for your kid with Spider-Man." And again, please, Peter, whatever you do, if I end up dying one day, do not sell your marriage to the devil. No promises, Peter says again. But no, May actually starts to go, and the sun starts to set, and they go to her house, and she's weak, and she's dying again. And then she's like holding Peter's hand, and she says, you used to love it when I read you Peter Pan. So she starts quoting, straight on to morning. She dies. Ben, who said he's leaving and never coming back, is out at the window crying too. And it's actually a pretty emotional moment as Peter's holding Aunt May and everybody's losing their bawling. But it's kind of crappy that Ben does not come in to see her final moments, because she knows of him as the guy calling her. So if she's dying, and she knows Peter's Spider-Man, why doesn't she just say that he's my clone? But whatever. Ben needs to have his emotional watching her die from a window because he's not part of the family because he's a clone moment. And then we go to the funeral, and you see like Felicia Hardy's there because she's dating Flash at the time. You see Betty Brant, you see Marla Jameson, you see Jonah, you see Liz, you see Normie popping the head out of the Spider-Man doll because you got to remember that he's nuts. I think, he's also there. Robbie is. The priest is talking, and he's, it's actually pretty beautiful artwork. You got Peter just standing there watching as the coffin's raised, and I like it how she said how her tombstone reads, she taught us how to love, and then Uncle Ben said he was loved. So it's kind of cool. That's like May and him are connected. Mm-hmm. Then after everybody leaves, Ben shows up with a scarlet scarf because they got to remind you that it's Ben, not Peter. Then they're at the wake, and they're all talking, and they're all having fun. Not fun, but, everybody's, just grieving Aunt May, and they're all having dinner, and then there's knocking on the door, and the cops are like, "You're arrested for what Ben and Kane did in the Lost Year miniseries. You're coming with us." And Mary Jane's like, "You couldn't wait till after the funeral?" No, dramatic irony. And then Peter gets arrested, and then Peter stares as Ben up there, and then you almost get a sense that Peter's thinking, "You son of a bitch, you framed me for murder to steal my life." Peter dries off. Then Mary Jane's all like, "No, I have to be with Peter. His aunt just died, and now he's arrested. What the fuck's going on here?" And then Ben's like, "Hi." She's like, "Who the hell are you?" I'm like, "I'm just going with Spider. My name is Ben Riley. We haven't met before, but now it's time for us to meet face to face." And she sees it's Peter. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, James, you forgot the after credits scene where Peter Parker turns to the reader and kind of goes like, she said not to make a deal with the devil, but she said nothing about Mephisto. And then he like makes like an ironic face and like, just like a wah wah. And then.
So James, what did you think of 400?
This is like I said to the guys, this is one of the best Spider-Man stories of the 90s. It's not all time because of the retcons that happen later on with the story. And I know a lot of people complain that the retcon doesn't fit, but it kind of does because the whole fact that May just miraculously wakes up, it's obvious it's because the actress just replaced the real Aunt May who's still in coma. So the retcon does fit. The story is good, but the one problem that I do also hear people say, and it does point out to me the joke, is that it like almost it's its own standalone story about the death of Aunt May, but there's constant pages where they got to hit you over the head with the Clone Saga to remind you, don't forget he may be a clone. Don't forget Scarlet Spider's awesome. Don't forget the Jackal somewhere. Don't forget that Spider-Side is homeless. Don't forget that Kane's framing people of murder. It's like you get to the really cool character moments of Peter, Mary Jane, Aunt May, Anna Watson, those guys, and then it's like, I'm the clone or I'm the original. It's like complete mood whiplash. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But the art's good. The vaguely art. What?
there's all you're saying like there's kind of like a real character driven story, and then like the '90s like Clone Saga stuff kind of like keeps creeping in, and it feels like you're reading two comics, like you're reading a really well written like character comic, and then like a really cheesy.
And then you're reading part 75 of an ongoing 300 part event.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Aunt May actual death scene, I like it too. She's like, Peter, it's, remember how we used to read to you, Peter Pan, he recites the book to her as she dies. And I think that's really touching and beautiful. I still want to get why Ben couldn't be in the room with them. I take it if it's because of Anna Watson, but since he's going by Ben Reilly, you could just say it's a family member who came to see her final moments.
Yeah.
All right, James. But James, any other thoughts? And you give this issue a thumbs up, sideways, down.
I say it's a thumbs up. It's a really good story. Like the only thumbs down that I can really say, you got the Clone Saga beating ahead of it, but that's about having it's continue the ongoing plot and it's reminding new readers about the plot. So it's not really that big of a con, especially because this is pre-internet where you had to remind people they didn't pick up the last issue what the hell's going on. So that's not really a con, but the one big con, and it's not even the con because of the story. It's just because the retcon ruins the story. But if you ignore the retcon of Aunt May that happens in the final chapter, this is a really beautiful, great story, and it's the definitive death of Aunt May, if you ask me.
All right, I'll give my thoughts now. I will say that I really like this issue. I think that it's a really... Here's the thing. If you ignore the retcon of Aunt May and the actress and all that crap, it's a really good send-off for Aunt May. There's just so much true emotion in this book. It's like you understand how Peter and Aunt May feel about each other, about what kind of dynamic that they have. You understand what they mean to each other, and the scene with her revealing that she knows he's Spider-Man, to me that was done perfectly. And the explanation that they gave was basically like, look, I just lost my husband. If I admitted to myself that there was a possibility that I was going to lose my nephew too, I was going to lose my freaking mind. So like I understood that and it made sense to me and I really liked it, but I also liked that she was like, look, I just can't lie to myself anymore. I can't push this down anymore. So it's like I like that. I like the moment where she just looks at Mary Jane and just goes, "You're pregnant." I don't know. I just love that.
The thing I also like about it, the back issue tries to say that it's ASM 15 when Peter comes back that she puts two and two together, but I do like the idea that most fans had about this, that if it was Aunt May and not the actress, that it's actually 200 when she finds out, when Peter saves her, and she obviously would overhear him saying, "You killed my Uncle Ben," and stuff like that. That's actually 200 when she learns the secret here. And then she's been hiding it for the last 200 issues, so it's kind of like going full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then, of course, you have just the Mark Bagley art, like James said, is just absolutely amazing. He is just an outstanding artist during this era of Spider-Man. And that's
era.
But then, of course, the issue is weighed down by the Clone Saga. I hate the Clone Saga.
Dude, it's so good.
It depresses me.
It's the best Spider-Man story ever written.
It depresses me so much. But it's
Ben Reilly, you got to. The only complaint I got about the real complaint though about the clone beating over the head is why did Peter and Ben have to be in their suits for that moment in the backyard?
But yeah. It's not enough to weigh down the issue completely. So I still give it a thumbs up. It's a great issue, a great send off for Aunt May. It's too bad that the final chapter came in and completely ruined it.
And remember, can we mention that real quickly? Because I don't know if we're going to be able to review the final chapter. The reason for that is the same reason for One More Day, which is the same reason why Romita got his way with them killing out Gwen instead of Aunt May back in that. It's the same reason why Wolfman didn't actually pull the trigger on killing her in his run leading up to 200. It's because Marvel editors, for some reason, get it stuck in the head that you need doting Aunt May in the books. And the original plan that DeFalco pitched for the final chapter, and it's obvious when you read Spider-Girl, and he has come through, the plan was for the May that they're talking about to be the baby. I mean, all the clues are pointing to baby. The rattle, the carrots, the fact that the body that Norman Osborn has is baby size. And people are saying, we have your little May. And then it turns into, because the editors and John Byrne coming in, and John Byrne grew up with the Romita Ditko stuff, and he needs his doting Aunt May, who blames rock and roll and hip hop for Spider-Man. He needs her in the book, even though he's writing chapter 1 that he could use all the Aunt May he wants. He wanted her back, and the editors are like, you need Aunt May. So the last minute, they fuck over DeFalco, and like, yeah, it's going to be revealed. Psych, it's Aunt May, and she hits Spider-Man over the head with a vase because he's the menace.
All right, but Jan, what do you think of 400?
I like it. Like, I agree with James and you. Like, it's a really good Aunt May story with a really, like, cheesy, like, when they're both talking in the backyard, like, I expected the neighbor to just, like, like, look and see, like, two, like, Spider-Men, like, standing in the backyard. Like, that was so, like...
If I could interrupt Jan for a second, I'm sorry about that. I think now thinking about it, the only reason I did that is so you could tell them apart.
Probably. Doesn't Ben Reilly have, like, blonde hair?
No,
not yet.
Not at this point.
It's not until Peter leaves the book and then, like, Anna Watson says, Peter, what the hell are you doing here still in town? And he's like, oh, yeah, I look identical to Peter Parker. Whoops.
Oh, you're right.
So he dyes his hair blonde.
I guess I was projecting that on there when I don't know. I'm kind of used to Ben Reilly having a little bit, but you're right. He doesn't have it yet. But no, that moment was great. I loved, well, it wasn't great. It was kind of bad, but the Aunt May stuff was really good. I think on one hand, like, I think her being magically, like, okay until she's kind of had her final piece with Peter and then, like, dying, like, that was a little bit, on one, like, part of me thinks it's, like, cheesy hack writing and part of me kind of loves it, and I think I'm going to side with the part of me that loves it. Like, I think it's a good send-off for May. However, I can't hate that she was brought back, because even though it does cheapen this, one of my favorite issues of all time is when she and Peter have the conversation about her finding out he was Spider-Man from from JMS's run. Like, I think that's a great story. So, you know, on one hand, like, I like this, but I probably like that issue a little bit more. So for me, I'm not terribly upset that she was brought back, but, you know, it's still bad writing. Like, I don't know, I'm tired of characters being brought back. So I don't know, it's a good issue that's just like,
remember when Marvel used to promote, like, 30 years ago, that dead meant dead in the Marvel universe, and then dead meant dead in the Ultimate universe, and they gave up on that too?
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. But, like, I think this is a really good, like, solo story that was just kind of in, like, the wrong place at the wrong time. Like, it just happened to be occurring during, like, one of the worst eras in Spider history, so that bogs it down. But it's not a bad issue at all.
Okay, and with that, we're going to move on to the trial of Peter Parker. We got the first two issues here. I'll be handling the recap. This first issue is Web of Spider-Man number 126. Creative team, Todd DeZago, Roy Burdine, Randy Emberlin, Don Hudson, Kroll, Crespi, Babcock, Kevin Tinsley, Eric Fine, and Danny Fingeroth. All of their, like, job titles are changed to, like, courtroom job titles, so I don't actually know who did what apart from Todd DeZago. I know Todd DeZago edited, or I know Todd DeZago wrote it, and I know Danny Fingeroth edited it, but I don't know what anyone else did. I don't know what their specific job was.
Well, the whole fact that one of them says police artist, and it's the main writer. It's the main artist after writer. I guess he was the artist of the book.
I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions, but basically, to catch up, Ben Reilly actually switched places in between 400 and this issue. Ben Reilly switched places with Peter Parker in prison, so Ben Reilly was the one who stayed in prison, and Peter Parker's free to find Kane and figure out this whole mystery of being framed and everything. Ben's currently standing on trial, and they're like, you know, Peter Parker murdered someone, so he has to go to jail because, you know, that's what's supposed to happen. And so, like, Ben's like, Peter, you need to figure this out right now. And Peter is attacked by Kane, and Kane's like, I won't let you protect Ben Reilly anymore. He's scum. He's terrible. And you're so much better than him, Peter, because for whatever reason, I'm I idolize you so much. And Peter's like, you be crazy, bro. And so they get into this like really long fight that pretty much takes over the entire issue. And so basically the issue is simultaneously Peter and Kane fighting and Ben going through the whole bureaucracy of the courtroom. Meanwhile, Jacob Raven is working with Stunner to find Kane because Kane killed Doc Ock a few months prior to this, and Stunner's like, you killed my man, so yeah, that's not a good thing. And Raven's like, yeah, I know that Kane was the one who actually killed those people that Ben Reilly and Peter Parker are being framed for. So they're trying to find Kane and all that stuff. Peter and Kane are fighting. Kane's just getting absolutely freaking reckless and, endangering innocent people. And Peter's like, no, we cannot have that. That is not an option, not at all. And so Peter actually manages to beat Kane after Kane pisses him off enough. And then Stunner shows up and completely throws him off his game. But before either one of them can do anything to Kane, oops, it's Judas Traveler. And then that Judas teleports Kane and Spider-Man away, and Stunner's like, where did they go? Well, they went to Amazing Spider-Man 403, which is part 2 of this story, which the creative team on this issue, once I pull it up here, is James DeMatteis, writer, Mark Bagley, penciler, Malstedt, I apologize, and De La Rosa as inkers. Bill Oakley is the letterer. Bob Sharon is the colorist. Danny Fingeroff. What?
Oh my dog! She jumped on my bed just to fart. Oh God, it's disgusting. Drizzle. And now she's staring at me like what? I'm a dog.
Well, that happened. Bob Sharon is the colorist, and Danny Fingeroff is the editor. And here is where I'm going to admit, I found issue 1 to be boring. This issue, I was not bored. I would not say that this issue was boring. This issue, Spider-Man wakes up, and he's greeted by Carnage, Shriek, a bunch of other people from
Two-Face from Batman,
and a bunch of other people from Ravencroft, and Judas Traveler is a judge, and he's in a courtroom of Judas Traveler's creation because Spider-Man is on trial because his life is somehow a crime. Because Judas Traveler. So basically, Judas Traveler is like, well, your existence, we are going to determine if you are actually a hero who keeps the criminals in line, or if your existence creates criminals. And Spider-Man's like, bitch, what the fuck you talking about? And he's like, and so, the main prosecution for this case, Carnage. Because if there's anyone in the world who should never, ever be trusted to do anything important, such as prosecuting a case, it's Carnage. So you know who Judas Traveler picks to prosecute the case? Carnage. Because Judas Traveler. And the jury is all these inmates from Ravencroft, because they are totally, they are Spider-Man's unbiased peers because Judas Traveler. So Spider-Man's like, oh my gosh, what the hell did I get myself into? I think I'd rather be stuck in prison. I think I'd rather
I know how he got himself stuck in this because Judas Traveler.
And so Kane is, on the defense side, and Kane's like, You can't do this to Peter. He's such a good guy. I will leave the mark of Kane on you. And Judas Traveler's like, cool. It doesn't work on me, dude. So yeah, Judas Traveler throws him to the side, and he's like, you know what? I'm done with you. You are going to defend Peter Parker. And Kane's like, what? And so Judas Traveler's like, let the trial begin. Carnage, call your first witness. And Carnage is like, I call myself.
This sounds like a bad fanfic right now.
Jan, I'm not even to the best part yet.
To quote the 90s show, this is starting to sound like a bad comic book plot.
Yeah, oh my
And
god.
we should put the emphasis on starting because I'm just getting warmed up, ladies and gentlemen.
FYI, remember, I just want to remind you, John, the next arc after this is maximum clonage, so we're not even to the tip of the clone iceberg.
And FYI for the listeners, I have not read these issues, so I'm just enjoying
Okay, he's Heath Ledger's Joker. He's just watching the world burn.
Yeah, that's what I am right now.
So back in the real world, Mary Jane's going through the really boring bureaucratic process of being a witness for the Ben Reilly murder,
which makes no goddamn sense until that's proof that he's guilty. Where was your husband? There's times where he's like working for the Bugle and all other stuff. So you don't know where he is every day. Yeah, but I know he can't fly to, Portland and back in one day. See, she can't prove that he can't do that. He's guilty. What?
So yeah, we go back to the Spider-Man trial, and Carnage is like, well, he created me because he brought the symbiote to Earth. And so if it wasn't for him, I would have never become so corrupted and evil. And so then Carnage is in the witness chair saying this, and then he jumps out and starts questioning an empty witness chair. And then he jumps back in and answers the questions. And then Kane is like, but weren't you a killer before the symbiote got on you? But then he's like, no, you must have me mixed up with some other Cletus Cassidy. And so Kane's like, screw this, Mark of Kane.
I love Kane's whole defense is just, I'm going to put my spider wall-crawling face grip on everybody until they know Peter Parker is innocent.
I not kidding you.
I just want to remind people, Kane is the only one who should be able to have this ability because it's because of his clone degeneration that he's able to put like the wall crawling to rip somebody's face off. So when Peter does it later on the Grim Hunt, that should never happen.
Oh, that was a terrible story.
It's so okay. After he tries to,
I just want to clarify. Can I do this for a second, John? Pretend like I still have my long hair. Aren't you still Cletus Cassidy, the arch murderer? No. Mark again!
And so after he tries to do this, Carnage is like, bitch, please, Symbiote X! And so they start fighting, and Judas Traveler's like, enough, not in my courtroom. And Carnage is like, but he started it. And he's like, you will be silent. Yes, Your Honor. Now call your next witness. Malcolm McBride. And they're like, no, he just got over the carrion virus. And so, basically, they point out that because he was jealous of Peter Parker at the university, which drove him to experiment with the carrion virus that caused him to become carrion. He said because he was jealous of Peter Parker, that it was Peter Parker's fault that he got the disease. Because this guy had such a small dick that he decided to experiment with a deadly genetic virus just because
they got carrion in this event, and they don't try to retcon again that he once again is the clone of Miles Warren, and they're still saying nope, he's the only part of that high evolutionary retcon in the 80s that still is totally canon.
Okay, can I ask a question? Not to interrupt. So what's the deal with all that? So like I read the high evolutionary stuff like a year ago. And they're like the clones weren't clones; they're people that were remade into be
Here's
like.
Here's the problem, Jad. People even back after Conway's run thought that the Clone Saga was a bad idea. So when Conway came back onto his run for Spec and Web, the first story arc Marvel asked him to do was, and he agreed to it, was retcon the clones. So that's what happened.
Okay,
and then when the 90s decided to bring them back, for the longest time they decided to ignore the retcon except for Carry-On. Until finally it became relevant again to mention, shouldn't Ben not even be a clone? He's supposedly Warren's lab assistant, Anthony Sebra.
Yeah.
So basically, basically, I'm sorry, Jen. Basically, Carnage is like, okay, well, Peter Parker, he drove you to experiment with this virus, even though he didn't drive you to do shit, because you made this decision on your own, because you're a grown-ass man who can make his own choices. But then he's like, but Peter Parker's so bad, and Peter Parker is Spider-Man! Dun, dun, dun. And they're like, well, Peter Parker poisons everyone around him, and Peter Parker's like, okay, I've had enough of this bullshit, and he breaks out of this chair, and he's like, you know what? Your jury's full of shit, because these are all people who are biased against me. Your prosecutor's nuts. This is complete BS. And so, no, okay, so then Stunner's still, like, you know, on the roof doing crazy stuff. Okay, and here, basically, they make their decision that he's guilty, and he must be executed. So Kane's like, no, Peter, I can't let Peter die. So he starts fighting all of these crazy-ass Ravencroft inmates, and they supposedly, they almost kill him. But then just at that moment, Judas Traveler transports them out of the room like nothing ever happened. And so they're back in the alleyway, and Peter's like, is he dead? No, he's not dead. Why? Why did you do this, Judas? Wait, why are we even out of here? Where's everyone else? Like, what was the point of this, Judas? And he's basically saying, oh, well, Kane decided to save you. And because Kane thought you were worth saving, that proves that you're innocent. What? That doesn't prove shit. Okay, because Kane loved him so much, that proved that Peter Parker was innocent of the crimes that he was being accused of, because psychology, apparently.
No, John, it's because Judas Traveler.
So Judas Traveler and so Peter's like, okay, why are you so obsessed with me anyway? There's a simple explanation for that. And Judas Traveler...
Don't they?
And Judas Traveler goes away. That was a Power Rangers reference. But yeah, Judas Traveler transports away, and Peter Parker is like, what the fuck did I just go through? And then Stunner shows...
You went for another Judas Traveler arc. You should be used to this by now, Peter.
And then Stunner is like, hey, you guys are back from wherever you teleported from. Cool. And so she grabs Kane by the neck, and she's like, I'm going to kill you. And then Peter's like, no, but you can't. And Carnage is back in Ravencroft, and he's like, oh, I know Peter Parker's Spider-Man. I know Peter Parker's Spider-Man. And Judas Traveler's like, no, you don't. And then he doesn't know the identity anymore, and that's the end of the issue.
Even though he still has it written on the wall, that's Peter Parker Spider-Man. Unless Judas Traveler just erased that on the wall, too.
What did I just read?
A Judas Traveler arc?
I am not kidding you. I was sitting in my chair today reading this comic, and I was just like, what am I even reading?
This sounds like a really terrible version of that episode from Batman the Animated Series where like the villains from Arkham like do a trial for Batman, but like this is like that, but like awful with like no flow.
This is like anything. Okay, I'm gonna give my thoughts first. Issue 1 sucked. It was boring as hell. Issue 2 was quite possibly the worst comic I have ever read, but it was also
bullshit.
But it was also one of the most entertaining comics I've read in a long time.
I think John finally understands why I like the Clone Saga.
Because that was the most off-the-rails thing I think I've ever seen. I can't even deal with it. I'm just like, so Peter Parker is innocent because Kane loves him. Because for some reason, the person that you called the defense lawyer, the fact that he loves his client and was willing to sacrifice his life for him, makes him innocent of the crimes, even though they have no relation to each other. And Kane's entire method of defense is just Mark of Kane.
I just want to clarify, John, this is a bad comic, but are you angry at it or are you just laughing at it?
This is the most entertaining thing I've read in a long time.
Now you understand why I said the Clone Saga is not worse than Dan Slott.
I'm going to be honest with you. I give the first issue a middle finger, but I give this issue a thumbs up. Oh, man.
I'm going to read this after we're done. This sounds hilarious.
Amazing Spider-Man 403, Jan. That's what you need to find.
Well, like, it sounds like just like so bizarre, and like, I don't know, like just thinking like, remember when Spider-Man was just about like a teenage kid like struggling with his life and trying to like fight like colorful bad guys, and now it's like this crazy like there's like clones running around and they're like in a trial and like Judas Traveler's like.
Oh, can I give my review now, John?
Yes, please, James.
Part 1, yeah, I agree that it's very much just and they fight with Peter and Kane. You got Stunner, who I'll get into more about her when we get to part 3. She's here or there. There's a reason why she didn't begin in the book after this arc until the Clone Saga. I mean, till Superior. She's not that really good of a character. Like her whole point in the Death Otto arc is, I will do anything to please this man, including understand why he's still in love with Aunt May. But that's neither here or there. So yeah, part 1's kind of boring and the art's not that good. It's really crappy 90s art. But part 2, oh boy, 2 thumbs up for that one. It's so bad, it's good. It's like Tommy Wiseau wrote this comic, and I hope you guys get the reference.
I don't get the reference at all, but that's great.
The Room.
Oh.
Wait, repeat the reference again?
The Room.
That movie, The Room, Jan.
The Clone Saga is like the Room of Spider-Man.
The only actual bad part where I'll say, yeah, that is bad. Oh, the whole book's bad, but not in a fun bad, but in a bad, is the prosecution's proof that because Mary Jane hasn't had surveillance on her husband 24 hours, that meant he must have murdered somebody. Which is like, so you're telling me if I go to the bathroom and nobody notices me, I must be killing somebody?
Yeah.
She goes, when he's not working and he's not with you, what is he doing? I don't know. He's doing personal things. I don't know what he's doing because she doesn't want to say he's Spider-Man. I don't know. He could be out having dinner. I don't know. It's personal stuff. Personal stuff's not murder. And it's like, okay, calm your tits, dude. I get it. You want to prove the guy is guilty, but if your whole defense is that his wife doesn't watch him 24 hours, that is not a good, defense.
Well, you know what would comic better is if Judas Traveler walked into Ravencroft, turned to Carnage, and said, "Hey, Cletus, how's your sex life?" Just like The Room.
I don't know. Speaking of Judas Traveler, I'm going to say this right now because I don't know what Jan knows about this or John. But speaking about retcons that ruin stories, you know how Judas Traveler here is teleporting people, how he's immune to the Mark of Cain, how he can make people remember and forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, how he's able to do all this stuff with Carnage, how he's able to make Vernon and Carrion get their powers back during the trial and then lose them again. All the stuff that happens with Judas Traveler throughout his arcs. You want to know what the retcon is?
He's an illusionist, right?
He's a mutant whose mutant powers makes you think he can do all this shit.
Because
So when Peter and Kane are teleported, it's just Judas Traveler making them think they're being teleported with his superpowers. When Kane's trying to give him the Mark of Cain and it's not working, he's just making Kane think it's not working. When he erases the mind of Carnage, he's just making Carnage think he's being mind wiped.
That's so stupid. That's terrible. But that's hilarious. Like that's what this is. Like that's what the Clone Saga is.
So when Stunner sees them disappear and they come back, it's just Judas Traveler mutant ability making her think that that's what's happening.
Because no one knew what the point of. I mean, here's the thing, James. Isn't there like a behind?
Even Titus in interviews says, "I just wanted to do this cool psychological psychiatrist villain, like who goes strange to Batman with Spider-Man."
Yeah, but it's like,
and because the only time I could get this arc falling off because I was the new writer of Amazing was during the middle of the Clone Saga. So it was even bogged down to the point that even now I don't even know who the fuck this guy was supposed to be.
Yeah, it's like behind the scenes, no one knew what the point of this character was.
Nope.
Don't forget that in his first goddamn arc, remember how he gets away with it? Because he sent a letter a few days ago saying he wasn't Judas Traveler. That proves he isn't Judas Traveler. Because he gets away and Spider-Man's going after him. And Copper's like, Peter, I just looked in the mail. We got a letter from the real Judas Traveler saying that he was going to have to cancel his meeting with me. So the guy who was here wasn't Judas Traveler. And then you go to the car and Judas Traveler's like, that letter I sent will make them think that I'm not Judas Traveler. It's like, what the fuck?
I can't even deal with this.
Like, I think
Like
John's
that.
starting to finally, like, understand. Like, for you, I don't know when you had your, like, oh my god, like, the clone stuff is hilarious. But for me,
I
it was
mostly have it because I'm a 90s kid, so cheesy, bad 90s stuff like Power Rangers and Beetleborgs, it's like, I can't get enough of it. You know what I mean?
yeah, for me, it
It's
was
just 90s cheese to me. The
it was
Clone
the
Saga.
70s, like reviewing the 70s Clone Saga with you guys when like the Jackal like is driving the bus, like that was when I'm like, you know what, I've like graduated to a new level of enlightenment. Like I understand now. Like
I think reading.
And then the 90s Clone Saga takes you to a whole completely other level.
it's like that one scene of the Jackal driving up, and they just took that and like made a whole like story arc out of like.
John and Jen, when we read and reviewed the 70s Clone Saga, the original, do you admit that there are entertaining moments that make you just laugh out loud about how dumb it is?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
90s one tonight, do you guys agree?
yes.
Amazing Spider-Man 403.
I'm just hearing you guys.
The final part of the trilogy, Clone Conspiracy. Do you laugh at anything that happens in that book?
I laughed at how bad it was.
Okay, Jan doesn't count. John, did you laugh in the book?
Not that I can remember.
You don't prove my point, so I'm ignoring you. But then again, I'm not likable. So
Yeah, true.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's just 2 thumbs up. I mean, this is just so hilarious. It's so bad, it's good. Like, whenever people ask me, how can you defend the Clone Saga? I'm like, guys, it's so bad, it's good. Haven't you ever watched a cheesy bad movie like The Room or Birdemic or something and you think that's so bad, but I can't get enough of watching it? The other night during my surprise party, we spent most of the time watching old Friday the 13th Jason movies. And those are just cheese as we're just calling out every core cliche there is in the book about how dumb these people are. These things are fun, these bad things. You know what I mean?
James,
right.
if you want a really good like bad movie, I recommend Pain and Gain.
Oh, actually, I saw that. I was bored. That was like so bad it's boring to me.
No,
All
you're,
right.
you're wrong. That movie's hilarious.
All right, but we'll move on to the final 2 parts of Trial of Peter Parker, and this is where it gets a little less fun. Spider-Man number 60. I'll give.
This is when the Clone Saga hits the fan.
This is this issue, Spider-Man number 60. Howard Mackey, writer. Tom Lyle, pencils. Hannah and Rubenstein finishes. Kevin Tinsley is the colorist. Richard Starkings and Comicraft are in charge of lettering. And Danny Fingeroth is the editor. And just to get it out of the way, I'll do the Spec 226 creative team now. Tom DeFalco is the writer. Sal Buscema, pencil breakdowns. Bill S.
What?
Bill S. I'm not even trying with that name. Is the finished art.
What issue are you reading?
No, I'm doing the Spec 226 credits now just to get it out of the way so that I don't have to interrupt you.
Okay, because I'm on Parallel Peter Parker Part 3, and I'm like, what the fuck are you reading, John?
No, I'm doing the Spec 226 credits just to get it out of the way. Tom DeFalco, writer. Sal Buscema, pencil breakdowns. Bill S. is the finished art. I'm not even trying with that name. Clem Robbins. Clem Robbins is the letterer. John Callis is on colors. And Eric.
I gotta admit, the most fun stuff about the Clone Saga now is just John mispronouncing every name in the book.
Eric Fine is the editor, and Danny Fingeroth is the group editor. Okay, Spider-Man 60 and Spec 226. James, take it away.
Issue Part 3, of the trial begins with Shimmer, or Stunner, whatever the fuck her name is, all like, I'm gonna kill you for killing Otto, and Spider-Man's like, no, you're not. And he's like, that's enough. can you guys please not stop trying to kill people? So of course she just bitch slaps him across the room. That won't be the last time somebody gets bitch slapped across the room while during every of these issues. Keep that in mind. So yeah, she keeps on fighting Kane, and then Kane's immediately like, "Murder Kane." Can we just have a running joke now, even when I review like the Ben Reilly book, where it's just Kane's answer to everything? Pizza delivery man's late. Murder Kane.
Because he tries.
His favorite football team lost the Super Bowl. Murder Kane. It's raining on his birthday or his clone day. Murder Kane.
Because he tries
just like acid touch, right? Like that's what it is.
He can't get past level 3 because that same guy is just snipe killing him in Call of Duty. Murder Kane. He had a bad dream. Murder Kane. So yeah, pretty much he just does every Murder. He just marks a Kane her, and Ben's like, Peter's like, oh my shit. So then Shimmer picks up a tractor like it's a fucking Looney Tune cartoon and tries to hit both Kane and Peter over the head with it. And then Kane jumps out at her, starts hitting her, calling her a fool, and Murder Kane. And then she punches a beam in a building, and right when it falls at them, all she can say is, whoops. Literally, that's all she says is, whoops, this baby is coming down. And then Spider-Man tries to save her, and the building still collapses on her. And that's the last we see of Stunner until Superior Spider-Man. So wave goodbye to Stunner, everybody.
Goodbye, Stunner.
Bye, Stunner. See you when Dan Slott even does worse job than you than the Clone Saga ever did.
Goodbye, Stunner. Thank you.
So then Kane starts to walk away, and then Peter's like, where are you going? And he's like, bye. And then he's like, you're not going anywhere. And Kane's like, why? Because I believe sucker punch. And then punches him. Again, not the last time that's going to happen in these last 2 issues. So we get more of the trial and the evidence that, other than the fact that Peter's fingerprints and DNA is on the victim, like everything else is like completely falling apart, but yet it somehow proves he's guilty. Because all the guy keeps on yelling is murder. 2 + 2 = murder. What killed the dinosaurs? Murder.
Well, I mean, technically it was asteroid murder.
Yeah, but I don't think the asteroid came out to murder the dinosaurs. I don't think the asteroid said, I'm going to be a dick to those dinosaurs and just fucking kill them all. It's a force of nature, John.
Technically it's a force of outer space, but go on.
That rock used to be part of a planet, was it not?
Let's not get into the science debate now, James.
Yeah, this isn't a goddamn shitty Ben Affleck movie. I don't want to close my eyes. Yes, I do want to close my eyes because this movie sucks, Aerosmith.
No, I know what you're talking about.
The movie that I had to watch in high school, and our test after the movie was point out as many scientifically inaccurate things about this movie as it is. And then I love it that I put 1 down, and my teacher actually clapped when I did it. I put down 1. Ben Affleck's acting is scientifically inaccurate in this movie. You know a movie's bad when you're cheering, you're like, please God that the asteroid in this movie doesn't wipe out humanity and just kills Ben Affleck and Liv Taylor's character, because they are so annoying as the cute couple in this movie. It's like, I wish they die, and they're the sole survivors.
I love how they can't train astronauts to use.
That's the point that I brought up. Okay, I put down the Ben Affleck acting one as number 1, but the number 2 I put down. So NASA can't train astronauts to drill a hole in an asteroid, but they can train goddamn oil diggers to be astronauts in a week.
Yeah, I know.
I know John's getting mad at me, but Armageddon is such a bad movie, and it came out in the 90s just like the Clone Saga, so it fits.
And it has murder in it from the asteroid, so it fits. The team of 2 + 2 = murder.
So anyways, Peter drakes Kane's body, and then Kane wakes up and he goes, I'm not going to tell them I murdered them because Ben Reilly's being arrested. And Peter's trying to explain, but it's Peter Parker. But no, he's the clone, so he's going to be in jail for it. No, but it's going to ruin Peter Parker's life. Shut up with your logic, let's fight. Murder Kane. So then he goes, "What's your whole big deal?" And then Kane's like, "Because." He takes off his mask. Really, he wasn't burnt all along. Oh wait, that's the wrong Kane who took off his mask. Sorry, wrestling reference. No, he revealed that he's just a two-faced version of Peter Parker with long hair.
Cool.
It said he's also a clone, and that because he came out as a freak, Warren threw him out, and he's not perfect, and that's why he hates Ben. And Peter understanding this, like, I'm so sorry, dude. I mean, you're me. That sucks. And then Kane immediately puts the mask back on and says, "No, I'm still an asshole. Marker Kane." And he's going to stop Peter because Peter's like, "You know what? I know one way that's going to make you do the truth. I'm going to do mask and say I'm Spider-Man, and then I'm also Peter Parker, and then we're all clones." And then Kane's like, "You wouldn't." He's like, "Yes, I will." So he opens the door, and then Kane like grabs Peter, and everybody just like starts staring like this. And it's almost like the Family Guy joke from the first episode in the courtroom where Mary Jane's like, "Oh no." The guy who, got the Marker Kane during Lost Years is like, "Oh no." But Ben, who's pretending to be Peter's like, "Oh no." And then the goddamn, Kool-Aid Man pops through going, "Oh yeah." But not really. But no, it is. It's everybody going, "Oh no, oh no, oh no." And he's like, "I'm going to reveal I'm Spider-Man." And Mary Jane's like, "No." And then Ben's like, "No." And Kane's like, "No." So Kane then runs in, beats up the defense lawyer, or not the defense lawyer, what I'm looking for, the prosecutor, beats him up and goes, "Mark of Kane!"
But then gives the Mark of Kane to the freaking desk.
Yeah, he gets the Mark of Kane to the table, not the guy. And he's like, "That will prove my fingerprints are the same as Peter Parker. And why my DNA is Peter Parker's."
Mark of Kane!
Explain any of this stuff. No. Can you explain why you got Peter Parker's DNA and fingerprints? No. Well, what can I say? Peter Parker's innocent. And then Mary Jane, the best panel ever, face palms. She's saying thank God, but she's going like this.
Thanks to Marvel Unlimited for letting me put that up to the camera. That is the most amazing.
Proves that he innocent. Because Kane proves that he has the ability to give the face Marker Kane, and he has Peter's DNA and fingerprints, and he gives no explanation whatsoever. Just, "Yep, I do." Why? Because I do. And then, as this is going on, like, okay, Peter Parker's innocent. And then Kane's like, "I got one more thing to do. Time to murder Ben Reilly, who everybody thinks is Peter Parker." So he jumps at Peter Parker at the table. He jumps at Ben Reilly at the table, I mean.
And that leads us into Spectacular Spider-Man number 226, which is the final part of this arc.
Thank Christ.
And then... And he goes, "I'll prove I'm the serial killer." So he starts killing people in the courtroom, including Ben, trying to kill Ben Reilly. And then Ben is like, "What the fuck did I wake up to this morning? Seriously, am I on acid?" And then Peter's like, "You don't know that happened when I went from a Judas Traveler." And then you got Mary Jane, who's now a blonde in one panel or brown head hair, because fuck it. Because the artwork started to suck. Buscema should have never been on the book no more because he was clearly, getting health issues. So the artwork is really bad. So Spider-Man is beating up Kane in the courtroom while Mary Jane's like, "What the fuck's going on in the bed?" The guards all have angry faces as Kane's killing and murdering them. So Spider-Man beats them up, but then the cop puts a gun in Kane's head, and he's like, "Okay, we're cool now." And then everything calms the fuck down. Ben, as Peter, shakes Peter as Spider-Man's hand, saying, "Thank you, Spider-Man, for proving I'm innocent." He goes, "Anytime, Parker." The Bugle's all like, "Peter's innocent. How?" And then Robbie's like, "I don't even fucking know." He doesn't say that, but that's what it is. And then you got Jonah's like, "Oh, get back to work. Start printing photos of a whole Spider-Man's the one to frame Peter Parker. Oh, I hate him." And then as soon as he's alone in his room, he starts celebrating like a little schoolgirl. getting tickets to a Justin Bieber concert. I'm not kidding you. As soon as the door closes, he's like, "Woo, yippee!" all this stuff. And then Jack goes with Spider-Side, and he's all like, "Smoke and mirrors, clones, I hate them. Oh, here's your Spider-Side costume, enjoy it." And then we got Kane being prosecuted, and the guy recognizes, yeah, that's the guy. But yet, he's like, yeah, but I was in Salt Lake, and I killed her. Why? Because lost years. But what are lost years? Stuff. Can you actually explain anything and not just be mystery brooding bad boy? No. He has a solid evidence. That's a good alibi. So Peter and Mary Jane are celebrating, and then the doctor guy, who, you know, is Ben's friend, is all like, so this is Trainer, you know, I got the DNA test for us. You're back. Mary Jane, Peter is not the father. Yeah, it turns out the real father is you because you're a hermaphrodite. That's a South Park reference if people don't get it.
I was going to say, where are you going with this, James?
Office, we get more of Kane as he's having nightmares of Mary Jane dying. So Trainer's all there wearing like shield clothes. And he's all like, so Peter's the clone and Ben's the original. And then Peter gets all mad. He's like, no, it's a trick. You know, you're tricking me. You're lying, which is kind of ends up being true. He's just saying, Mary Jane, don't listen to them. They're lying. And then Peter and Ben do the test. And then the test keep on calling back as the saying that, yes, Peter's the clone and Ben's the original. And then because of that, after everything that happened in these three parts, being arrested on your aunt's funeral, you know, the stuff with Traveler, Kane going out to the courtroom, and then finding out your clone, Peter decides to turn into Hank Pym by going nuts and beating the shit out of everybody, including his pregnant wife.
That's the character.
He runs out of the room once he figures out what he does, and then Mary Jane, in probably one of the worst panels you can do for any woman that's going through a battery from her husband, goes, Peter, don't leave me, I love you. And that's how the issue ends.
Remember when Spider-Man just protected people from muggers? Remember the good old days?
Don, you want to go with your review since these are going to be good?
Oh gosh, part three is really funny because Mark of Cain. Part 3 is really funny because like it's just ridiculous.
I love it how Steiner becomes a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Part 4 is no. It's here's the thing about part 4. Part 4 is fucking hilarious for like the first 8 pages when it's just like, what is going on here? But then the moment they get to the whole Benzie,
and then you get to beating your wife.
That's where it's just like you.
And I want to remind you, Peter Parker gets a pass here because he's going through a lot of emotional stuff with the clone saga and everything. His aunt just died. His parents were robots. You know, clones. Judah Traveler. So people like to get. He went through a mental breakdown. He was saying "I am the Spider" for most of this run. You know, he gets a pass. Not Franklin Richards. Reed Richards. He had to snap mind control out of Susan. He had to get that out of her, so he had to slap it out of her. He's okay. Emma Frost brainwashed Cyclops into slapping Jean Grey. He gets a pass. Hank Pym, he gets no pass with fans. He's the scapegoat for beating your wife. And it's like, did you reread all these other issues where every other Marvel husband has done it?
Well, here's the thing.
They all have a convenient excuse except for Hank Pym.
Peter Parker, you know what his excuse is here? Well, nothing.
Bad writing?
Yeah, exactly. It's like nothing because it's bad writing. It's like, no, Peter Parker would never do this.
Justify him doing this to Mary Jane. Stop it, because that's not victim blaming, but you're saying, well, he's going through a lot. That doesn't excuse the fact that he bitch slapped his wife, his pregnant wife halfway across the room.
It's like, and I've heard people say, like, oh, he didn't know she was back. I've heard people say.
The only explanation I will give, and it's my own headcanon, because I don't think Peter, even as a nutso, would slap Mary Jane, is that he thought it was Judas Traveler trying to pull him off Ben.
But even then, it's like, Peter would never slap his wife.
Because he never looks at Mary Jane. He never says, I hate you, woman, or whatever when he does it. He literally just slaps and he goes, oh, shit, what did I do? So my headcanon is he thinks it's Traveler while he's beating Ben, and he just kind of like Spider-Man 3, like he doesn't know who's behind him when he does it.
But here's the thing.
But that's the excuse I agree with. The excuse I don't agree with is that he was going through a lot. That's not an excuse to be.
That's not an excuse. I mean, there's never an excuse for domestic violence. I just want to put that out there. There's never an excuse. But
At least the reason I gave is kind of a way where you can say, okay, he thought it was travel and was an accident. The excuse of people that give that, well, he's going through a lot. No, I will never buy that excuse.
yeah, it's like Peter Parker becomes completely unlikable here, and it's because of bad writing, and that's why this is one of the worst issues
No,
ever.
you want to know why he became unlikable? Because they had to make sure that you like Ben.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to phase Peter out because, as far as I know, before this story, which I've never read, Peter was like the spider, and he was like literally like at one point like made a web cocoon in his room and was just like in there. And then Mary Jane just walks in and is like,
"What the fuck, like Mary?"
Right now, and just like leaves. Like it's like, oh my god, like what is poor Peter?
Well, can we? I know we're not the Clone Saga Chronicles podcast, but let's just say, because we're probably never going to review another clone after this, because I can see John and you're probably hating this now. Can we just point out the elephant in the room? The fact that they are trying to say now that the plan was never to have Ben replace Peter. Can we just say that's bullshit?
That's complete bullshit.
It's complete bullshit. Now,
I will agree. The plan was. People still say this. I don't think the plan was to get Peter and Mary Jane to get a divorce. That was never the plan.
No, the plan was to get
the slap. The whole plan here wasn't to set up the breakup. The slap was to set up. Man, isn't Peter Parker unlikable? It's because he's not the original. Ben's the original.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, James, what'd you think? For me, issue 3
was a Looney Tune cartoon. Let's just call it what it is. She's hitting them with buildings, Matt Murdock style. Spoiler if you haven't seen the Defenders yet. And goddamn, trucks. It's like, I know I don't want to quote another podcast, but when the Amazing Spider-Man Classic reviewed the Strange Tale annual, and then the one guy made this starting to sound like Tom and Jerry, and then they started to fight in like a construction zone with wrecking balls and stuff like that. He goes, I just said I didn't want to turn into Tom and Jerry. This is what this fight with Stunner felt like. Because she's like bringing tractors and buildings, and it's like as soon as she goes, it's like, that's all, folks. And then the cane stuff is like, it's literally like, we got to have more action. It's like, instead of you could have literally cut out the whole fight. Once he proves that he's the one who did the murder and not Peter, and then he gets carried away, that's literally what it could have been. But no, they had to have an action scene, so Kane completely flips out and tries to kill everybody, including Ben Reilly in the courtroom. So you got that. Then you, like I said, this Mary Jane and the abuse. I mean, I get the point is you're trying to make Peter unlikable, but there's a lot of other ways you can make a guy unlikable without him hitting his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'll defend the Clone Saga, but that's in hindsight of a guy who besides for the first very few Ben Reilly issues where he was Spider-Man in like '96. When I would walk to my comic store and says, I want to start reading Spider-Man, and I would fall. I try to get in the comics, but I would never be able to pick them up on an ongoing way. Besides for that, for someone who has no context to the clones, I just thought it was Peter Parker with blonde hair. Like, I just thought it was a Spider-Man with blonde hair. So it's coming from someone who didn't get in the books really until after the Clone Saga is over. In hindsight, I'm like, I don't see what the big deal was. Yeah, we had a whole run where Otto was Spider-Man for a while, and other people have been Spider-Man for a while. Miles was Spider-Man for a while, and Ultimate, you know what I mean? I'm used to it with superheroes, but I can see all the time that at the 90s, how if you were reading Spider-Man since ASM 15 and you read this issue, why you would have been like, fuck this, I'm done. I'm done with Spider-Man. Because not only are you telling me that the guy who I've been reading for 30 years is not the same guy, but you're also saying he's a wife-beating asshole.
Yeah, so it's like issue 3, we agree, is really fun, but issue 4, it's like the moment he slaps his wife, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I haven't read it, but that I would probably agree with you guys. So
it's like we're having fun. It's like literally you're having fun with something, and then it gets serious.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's always that like one friend who takes things too far. Like that's what this issue is. It's like you're having.
It is. It's that friend who keeps on egging on the joke, and then he takes the joke too far, where everybody gets pissed off and leaves.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, that's going to conclude this review. That's also going to conclude this episode of the podcast. We don't really have anything else to talk about. So, James, final shout-outs or words for the listeners before we sign off?
Shout out to myself because my birthday's coming up, and I don't want to sound like a douchebag for that. But still, it's my birthday. I'm excited. 27 years old, 3 away from 30. Scares the living shit out of me now. Just gonna enjoy my 20s as much as I can because I'm 3 years away from my 30s. And yeah. So that shout out again to my friends for throwing me that surprise party. It was awesome. Thank you guys. Shout out to Madden. It's a good game so far since I've been playing it. It's football. Besides that, there's shout out to that hot girl Randy who I met at GameStop. Shout out to you if you're watching this. You're kind of a nerdy girl, so maybe I don't know. Shout out to you.
All right.
Besides that, I have no other shout outs.
Jan, shout outs, final words.
Shout out to Frank Miller's Daredevil. I've been rereading that this week, and it's really good. And that's it. I guess shout out to myself because my birthday is in a little over a week. So there you go.
That means Jan gets to pick the next classic issue review.
Oh gosh.
Jan's gonna purposely pick. I'm gonna pick the Daredevil issue team up with Spider-Man from this run.
I'll think about it.
My shout outs, Marvel, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, of course. Thank you for Spider-Man. Other shout outs, The Defenders Show. I'm going to shout out to that because, oh my gosh, I love it so much. The Defenders Show.
I love the show up until the point that, again, spoiler alerts, Matt gets hit with a building and he's fine.
It's complete bullshit logically, but emotionally, oh man. But yeah,
until I realized that the Hand have no interesting character thing, and they're just like a plot device to get the heroes together.
Yeah, well, you're just a plot device to get the heroes together.
Well, in the comics, what is the Hand actually good for? Other than just being ninja henchmen.
But it's a different medium. Like they should have, if they were going to focus so many seasons on them, they should have made them more interesting. But that's neither here nor there.
But
the best thing about the Hand is that they're what the Foot from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are based on.
Yep.
But yeah, shout out to the Defenders. Shout out to I don't know. I don't have anything else. Yeah. So thank you all for tuning in.
Shout out to Lois and Clark from Smallville, since John likes to promote his shipping thing, and I'm rewatching Smallville, so shout out to Lois and Clark on that show.
Shout out to
I'll second that shout out. Lois is awesome on that show.
She is, John. She, if you watch the show, you will fall in love with Lois Lane as a character.
Yeah, she's great.
All right, but on that note, we will.
John's like, yeah, I don't care. I'm just gonna keep moving on.
Oh, we can hear you shipping Supergirl characters constantly, but when I ship 2 characters from Smallville, you get mad.
We're in his corner, James.
Hashtag double standard.
Yeah.
But yeah. Thank you for tuning in to Spider-Man's Tangled Web Show. We'll see you all next week. Mark of Cain.